Good morning, everyone. Welcome again to the Thursday Express meditation. Um, so we'll continue on our path. Last week we started with the six perfections. I think we only got through two of them. So that would have been the first two: generosity and morality. And then I think today we'll see how it goes. I was thinking maybe we do two more, but maybe we just do one since it's patience. So maybe we slow it down and become patient in our practice. So we'll see how it goes. Because then the next one is joyous effort or enthusiasm. Many translations, but yeah. So we'll see how it goes. So we want to bring ourselves into a conducive space for our practice, for our meditation, working with our mind, um, and making sure that we're physically comfortable. So finding that comfort is as best as possible, some position that we can hold for about 30 minutes, and we don't have to think about the body because we have to think about the body almost all day long and caring for it and feeding and taking care of aches and pains and all of our physical needs. So it seems to be never ending. We have to make it comfortable. So try to do that the best we can, whether we're sitting on a cushion or a chair, or even if we have to lie down, just finding what works best. And if we can sit on the cushion or a chair, finding this anchoring through these sitting bones, right through to our seat. And we can observe that there's this mass of substantial weight of the body sitting here. You can feel it, right? And from this base, we want to be as erect as possible, as straight as possible, and that comes from that base all the way up the back. And I suppose we need to imagine that the spine is, they say, straight as an arrow, but I mean, it naturally has curves, but we can imagine it's very straight all the way up to our upper back into our shoulders, neck, through through our skull, through our head, through the um, top crown. And then we check our head that it's slightly um, tilted forward, but the chin is tucked in, so it's still straight in line with the back, with the spine. And we relax our eyes, our cheeks, our facial muscles, our mouth, our lips, our tongue, our jaw, relaxing the neck and the shoulders and the arms. And we can bring our hands together with the right hand just placed on top of the left, and our thumbs are touching. And I like to imagine that when we have this posture and we worked really hard to put this body into this position, but then we just relax it. So we are not forcing the body to hold this posture, almost as if all the bones, all of our skeleton is kind of like a coat rack, and all the muscle and the tissue is just hanging on that rack that we've created. And we begin to observe our breath, observing the rise and as we inhale, and this expansion, and then the falling of the abdomen when we exhale, the rising and the falling. Just observing, not controlling. And we bring to mind our motivation, the bodhicitta aspiration to become enlightened so that we can lead all sentient beings to enlightenment. Because until we've until we've reached enlightenment ourselves, then we don't have this capability to actually benefit beings in the most beneficial way, which is overcoming delusion, overcoming samsara, and becoming completely free of these and to a state beyond. And in order to do that, we have to practice. We have to put the teachings into our mind stream to really develop them, to meditate on them, to chew on them, so that we get this change in our minds. And it's not a temporary change um, that comes and goes. It is at the beginning, but we're striving to have uh, a more long-lasting change. So, looking at this perfection of patience, and I think we all have a general idea of what patience means in our um, common everyday language. And we most likely feel like, oh, yes, I'm patient. From time to time, I lose my temper, but generally, I'm patient. So, in the context of the Buddhist teachings, the patience is threefold. It's the unconcern with the harms one receives. So, not having any concern when we have pain or being harmed. And then the second is the willingness to bear suffering, patience to bear the suffering. And then there's a patience of the Dharma, or the patience of the certain thought about the Dharma. So those are the 3 points of view of patience. So looking at the first one, okay. So we have this patience of not being concerned with harm. So we can think that normally, um, when another being, when a human or otherwise, they harm us, right? It could be physical, it could be mental, verbal. Um, then our mind becomes agitated when we're the receiver of harm. You can imagine maybe driving and maybe you have a small accident in the parking lot of the shopping center, and someone hits you, and they don't hit you, but they just hit your car, but it feels like they hit us, right? And this maybe this fear arises, but we know we're not in danger. So it's more of this agitation that arises. Someone hit my car. So all the time our mind is it's under this domination of the three poisons, this greed, hate, and delusion. And sometimes they're really strongly manifest and they're noticeable. And sometimes they're not. They're completely subdued because they're kind of like a wound that normally you're not aware of it. And it does give you a lot of pain if you touch the wound. So it's there, these three poisons, but they're not always kind of activated. So usually our mind is fairly peaceful, but when it meets these certain conditions, then a defilement such as anger, it can manifest, right? So if we look at that anger aspect for a moment, the anger, it can arise for a positive reason, right? Um, like when when one is angry for someone else's benefit. So when a mother is very concerned about the livelihood or the welfare of their child, then this is anger that could arise in the mother, but it's not um, anger that's coming from the self, but rather anger that's manifesting to protect another human being, another sentient being. And this anger, it arises easily. It's almost yeah, it's like second nature or completely natural. But when the anger happens, when it arises, we should think it's not correct to let the anger arise because from the beginning to the end, it's harmful. Even when the anger manifests in the mother to protect her child, it, it's it's harmful not to the child, but to the receiver of the anger and to the mother because it's destroying merit, it's destroying karma. And we can see it, right? When it arises, the anger destroys our peace of mind. It makes us unhappy for an amount of time. It even makes us look ugly because the face, it cringes, the heart starts pumping, the blood pressure goes up. So there's no positiveness in anger. There's no virtue. There's no virtue in that moment. And because you're creating this negative imprint and this negative karma, then it's just planting seeds for future suffering as well. And particular future suffering through anger. So it's easier said than done. So um, so through this patience, the patience of the not being concerned with the harm, we should think that we're trying to seek to be like a bodhisattva, right? That's that's our bodhicitta aspiration to get on that path and become a being that is benefiting, not destroying. So we can think that, oh, okay, how does a bodhisattva act? What do they do? So when someone comes to harm the bodhisattva, they're not upset, they're not angry, and in fact, they might not react at all, but just remain peaceful, and they might even return the help um, to the person that's harming them. So the bodhisattva is not acting in indifference, but acting with this peaceful mind, with intention to not get upset, to not retaliate, but remain peaceful, be kind, and potentially even extend positivity or a favor to the one that's causing the harm, the wrongdoer. So that's kind of our guiding light. That's our aspiration to be like the Bodhisattva. But it's really difficult, right? Um, Anger is not easy to control when we're in a angry rage. The potential or the attempt to practice patience in such a situation. That's um, that's difficult to not react to that harm when you're in this state of an angry mind. But not reacting to the harm, that's very beneficial. And even from the worldly point of view, right? They from someone who can remain peaceful and unaffected by harm, uh, they're considered a good person, right? So in the same way, if we practice this patience and we don't react to the harmful situation and we don't allow anger to arise, then it'll eventually because calm ourselves because when the incident happens, the anger will start to arise. And if we can not react, then that little instance of anger beginning, it eventually calms it over. And it also calms over the anger of the other person. And I think we've seen this with our teachers, our lamas, bodhisattvas, that they bring this presence of calmness. And if we've heard stories or maybe witnessed ourselves of uh, an angry person approaching them, and then by the time they approach um, the lama, they've reduced their anger, they've reduced their rage, and they become completely at ease. And we see this a lot with His Holiness Dalai Lama in such situations. And then there's this patience of willingly bearing suffering. So this is concerned with all the other types of suffering that we experience, um, not necessarily caused by other beings, such as uh, problems of not finding food or work or a place to live, or problems with our mind or body. And when we encounter such a situation, instead of being upset with the situation, we should realize that um, it's not come about randomly. It's come from a cause, and in fact, it's the cause of our own self-cherishing attitude. So constantly holding a self-cherishing mind, and it brings up this endless trouble of difficulties. And then lastly, we have this patience of the Dharma, or the patience of how we of certain thought about the Dharma. And this means like an unchanging faith in the Buddhas and the teachings and the other objects of devotion, and determination in the practice. I tend to think of this patience in the Dharma as being uh, an understanding that it takes time to change our mind. It takes time to bring the Dharma inside. So not getting frustrated with our practice, not getting frustrated with our development of the Buddhist wisdom. So may we dedicate all the merits that we've created during this contemplation of patience. May our patience continue to develop. May it um, grow, and may all the patience that has been developed in our mind streams, may it never ever diminish until all sentient beings have reached enlightenment. Thank you, everyone.